there oftentimes is asked out in the world, is a salesperson born or made? And I really do feel that I was born a salesperson.
Welcome to Biz Stories Shared, where storytellers share their inspiration, motivation, some disappointments, and how they applied the lessons that led them to success. Stories are gifts. Listen as these gifts are shared. Now, here is your host, Charlotte Plott.
Hello, storytellers. This is Charlotte Plott, and I'm thrilled to bring you our guest today, Connie Kadansky. Connie, are you ready to be a storyteller?
Yes, I am.
Well, good. Connie Kadansky is the president of Exceptional Sales Performance and International Sales Training and Coaching Practice. She is a recognized expert in identifying and eliminating sales call reluctance. She facilitates the world renowned Fear Free Prospecting and Self Promotion Workshop. Connie has a proven record in diverse industries. She was interviewed by Wall Street Journal, made a radio commercial for American Express, and her solution to call reluctance was featured in two Inc. magazine articles along with Bloomberg Business and Investors Business Daily. Connie has coached over 1,800 private clients and over 5,000 clients in groups on how to overcome sales call reluctance. She was chosen to participate in a prestigious scholarship program for executive coaching in Beijing, China. She facilitated public speaking training for the women in parliament in Rwanda through a French interpreter and sales training for Rwandan entrepreneurs. Connie helps salespeople get their ask in gear. That's that's a very impressive bio, Connie. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes, thank you.
And I've given the listeners just a little summary. So can you take a minute and tell us more about you personally? Because we want to get to know you better, and then give us an overview of your business.
Well, thank you so much, Charlotte. There oftentimes is asked out in the world, is a salesperson born or made? And I really do feel that I was born a salesperson.
Oh,
As a little girl, 5 years old, my piano teacher asked me if I would sell poppies on Veterans Day, and I loved it. I had so much fun knocking on doors, asking them to buy a poppy, them saying yes and giving me $1 for that poppy, and being able to take it back to my piano teacher that was just so surprised, like, wow, you did that fast.
so you were born to be in sales.
I do believe so.
Well, it sounds to me like you have diagnosed that really well.
Yeah.
Would you like to share your favorite quote and how you apply this to your everyday thinking?
Yes, my favorite quote is by Charles Fillmore. And at the time he said this, he was 96 years old. He said, I sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm as I move forth in the mighty faith to do that which ought to be done by me. And I believe that everybody has a special purpose. I don't care who they are or where they are. And that's what I like to adopt every morning as I jump out of bed.
Oh, I do like that too, because we need those kind of words to hear those and to give us motivation and encouragement. And so, how would you want the storyteller listeners to apply that to their journey?
Well, just to grab on to what is important to them, what gives them energy. So many times we do things we think we should do, we ought to do, but to really go inside. And Charlotte, I know that you have the feeling about what you do, that it's just plain fun.
Yes, it is.
And when we can zero in and do that on what is really fun, then we will be successful in it. And if it's selling insurance, commercial real estate, interviewing people for podcast, I mean, just whatever. And that is the energy that comes from that. There's always good that comes from it.
There's a quote that I can't quite grasp, and maybe you can help me with it. It's something like do what you love and the money will follow or something like that.
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah, I like that one too. And having fun along the way is really so important because I believe that's what keeps the juices flowing and keeps us
Yes.
energized. Well, thank you again for that. That was a marvelous quote. So, Connie, you have shared some of the facets of your life through your bio, being in business and helping and teaching, and along the way, maybe you've had some failures. Now, I want to ask you to tell us of one of the times you just didn't get the results that you set out to achieve. Will you tell us that story and, most importantly, the lessons that you learned?
Getting the results I didn't. One time I was a young speaker and I got a call from the National Speakers Association that said, "We're having this speaking coach come in and we're looking for people who will speak and then allow him to critique you."
Oh, my.
And I thought, okay, I can do that. Well, I showed up that day and I bought a new outfit, 110 speakers there. And I told him that I was going to tell a story. He goes, "No, you're not.
Oh,
Anybody can tell a story." So I had to change on a dime. And long story short, when he started critiquing me, Charlotte, it was so harsh and so severe.
oh,
I was just biting my tongue to not burst into tears.
I can imagine.
And thank goodness for Harold Wong, who eventually raised his hand and he said, "I think Connie has good presence." And the
Oh,
speaker coach said, "Well, she does, but she doesn't know how to use it."
oh,
And
my.
what I learned from that is number one, they supposedly called 50 speakers before me and they all said no.
Oh,
So I was the courageous one. And then I also learned that never, ever, ever to do that to somebody else. And it really didn't phase me. I came home and cried for an afternoon but it didn't stop me, but I can tell you that if somebody ever asked me to do that again, I would not say yes.
mm, wow. Oh, that could have just been devastating and stopped you in your career right then. So thank goodness you didn't let that happen.
Right.
That is so harsh. When you say the word harsh, people like that just don't realize how tender everybody is, and they shouldn't do that.
Right.
Well, thank you for opening up and sharing that story. And sometimes it helps us to remember that we did learn lessons and they help us to move forward. And the lesson that you learned was you're not going to volunteer like that again, wasn't it?
No.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Well, what I want to do now, Connie, is to go to the other end of the spectrum and let's talk about the time in your journey when you had an aha moment, when you became aware of the new path that you wanted to travel. So take us to that moment when you had the light bulb go off and take us through the steps that you took to turn that idea into success.
Well, when I first started in my business, so as sales training and coaching with a specific emphasis on sales call reluctance, and I really didn't have any clients. And I started going through my network. This was before internet. And I remember that I knew somebody at the Arizona Republic from Toastmasters,
Oh,
barely knew her.
mm-hmm.
Well, I called her up and she invited me in. She was in the operations side and her name is Janice. And she said, "Well, Connie, I need to introduce you to John Lindsay. He's our head sales trainer." And I went in and met with him, and we got a trade agreement for 3 years. I would train Arizona Republic salespeople, and then I would get a mega free ad in the business section once a month on Sunday
Oh, my.
in order to fill my public workshops. And on Monday morning, I would get 40 calls.
Oh,
So what I learned is always go through your network, even if you barely know somebody, pick up the phone, call them, ask them if you can come talk to them because you never know who they know and who they're willing to connect you with. Many people think, well, I don't know them very well.
Oh,
Well, go meet them and get to know them better.
oh, that is terrific. A terrific example and good advice. And we need to get over that call reluctance to do that, don't we?
Yes, that's for sure.
So maybe we need to call you.
Well, and it's so interesting that I always say call reluctance is nothing to be embarrassed about. Living with it needlessly is.
Mhm. Very well said. Yes.
Yeah,
Well, our real life experiences help us to take the lessons learned and apply them to other facets of our life and business. And that's how we keep growing, isn't it?
yes.
Well, Connie, I'm going to ask you to bring us to the present time and to share your proudest entrepreneurial moment.
My proudest entrepreneurial moment is when I was networking in a group every week for a year. And one day, this particular marketing consultant said, Connie, would you like a contact in Trinidad, West Indies? And he shared with me that the United Nations actually had a fund that trained people in Trinidad, West Indies. And I said, yes. He introduced me to this training company and I worked at it. It was not easy. I kept in touch, I kept reaching out. And from that, I actually have done over 26 trainings for companies, including the Canadian Embassy in Trinidad, West Indies.
Oh, my
So
word.
the entrepreneurial moment was when I followed through and hung in there and continued and worked hard and just loved the international flair, built the relationships, developed my own programs, and it still took somebody to introduce me. So that's why it's so important to do really strategic networking.
Oh, yes. What a powerful example of your proudest entrepreneurial moment. And you just gave us such good examples of how we need to follow through, how we need to make that first call, and don't give up when you just have to keep working and working at it. And you created programs based on this?
I did. So I went in as a sales speaker and trainer, and we pretty much exhausted the market because Trinidad is a pretty small island. And the executive director said, Connie, what we really need is presentation and public speaking skills.
Oh,
And that's when I started, and I did a lot of really good programs on public speaking and presentation skills, the basics and beyond.
well, that really opened the door for you then when he said that.
Yes,
Oh, my goodness. But it also shows that you're a good listener because you listened to what he said and you were willing to take action on that.
right.
Well,
Yeah.
well, good for you. Well, people really like to hear stories like yours and how you're growing and you've made your business a success and you help other people to succeed. So, would you tell us one thing that is really exciting you and your business right now?
Well, what's exciting is just learning how to use the social media, the LinkedIn. I mean, I was a salesperson before such things, and
Mhm.
that we are there. The opportunities are everywhere. They're rich if we have a really clear goal and a strategy and the energy to pursue it. And so I am learning how to use LinkedIn through somebody that you know,
Yes.
and Mike Christensen, and to be able to really use it effectively so that I can just really go out and expand my services, my value. And I'm looking to just shave the learning curve off by learning from other people on their success too.
Well, anytime that we can shave the learning curve off, I think it's a real advantage. Real good for you. Well, Connie, what's the best business advice that you've ever received?
You know, it's interesting. When I first started my business, I was reinvesting every penny that I earned. And a friend of mine from Toastmasters asked me one time, because he was in consulting also, and he said, Connie, are you paying yourself?
Mm.
And I had to admit, no.
Mm-hmm.
And I started paying myself. I had my accountant set me up and start paying myself. And do you know when I started doing that, I started making more and more and more money. And I think that sometimes people in the entrepreneurial world that they have a tendency to not do that. And if I had to do it over again, I would have set up paying myself immediately.
Immediately. Well, I can see the advantage of that is that we have to feel valued, and if paying ourselves helps us to feel more valued, even though it's us patting ourselves on the back, is that what helps us?
Well, it is, and then it's also confirming that we are providing value
Aha,
because somebody is paying us, so we're providing value and we're seeing it in our checkbook. And I mean, we have to start paying taxes on it, but
sure.
you know what, it's still, it's really the road to bigger and bigger business, and it takes somebody from being more of a hobby. Even though I kept reinvesting, and it was a very, very good question that he asked me.
Hmm. Well, and you took action on it too. That
Yes.
that proved to be a very beneficial guide from him, and you took action, so that was
Mhm.
good. Well, Connie, now I'm going to ask you to share some specific ways that show how you achieved becoming such a successful entrepreneur. And if you will tell me, what is the vision of the future of your business?
The vision of the future is just expanding my market, because once somebody recognizes my value, they
Hmm.
continue to come back. I have an assessment tool that I sell to companies before they ever hire a salesperson, have them take this test. And so is just to expand and double what I'm doing. And it is just, it's so possible, and it just sounds so exciting, and it's so fun. And to be able to just look forward to that, look forward to the strategy, developing the strategy, and also looking forward to all the activity that comes forward and the focus that has to come with that too.
Focus, yes, focus. I've learned this acronym for focus, and maybe you already know it, but I'm going to share it with you anyway. It's follow one course until success.
Ah, I like it.
I do too.
I'm going to keep that one.
All right. Well, Connie, can you share one of your personal habits that you strongly believe contributes to your success?
Yes, indeed. I am an early bird.
Mm-hmm.
And I naturally wake up around sometimes 3:38 or 4:19, and I get out of bed, and I've got a routine in the morning that just really sets me up and reminds me of who I am and what I'm doing. So getting up early is definitely, and I have a lot of East Coast clients too.
Oh,
So that just gets me, they're 3 hours ahead now. So I believe that going to bed early, getting up early, wow, the
that,
creativity just flows in the morning.
yes. Well, I believe that too, and I am working on that, getting up early and having up the details lined out before, the night before, of what I'm going to do in the morning, and I know it just makes a big difference. So
Mhm.
thanks for sharing that.
Yes.
Well, do you have an internet resource to share with our listeners which helps your efficiency, like Evernote or an app? And storytellers, you'll find the links to these sites in the show notes of today's episode at bizstorieshared.com/ Connie Kadansky.
Some internet source.
It doesn't have to be if you don't have one, anything.
Well, I have a pay-per-click consultant that manages a Google pay-per-click ads, and it has definitely been extremely profitable over the 3 years, and so he is one of my best resources because he knows what's going on out there, and he can manipulate my ad and place my ad and retweak my ad. So I think that people who have something like I do that is very unique, that a pay-per-click campaign can be very something very much to look into. It's not for everybody, not,
Mhm.
but something that is unique can be very valuable.
Oh, thank you for that. That does sound like good advice. So thanks.
Mhm.
So would you describe for us who are perfect referrals for your business? And by that I mean business associates or clients that the listeners know who would benefit from doing business with you.
People who must prospect or they will not succeed
Mm.
are good individual clients for me. Anybody that is struggling and not getting in front of enough prospects, no matter what it is that they do. And then also sales managers, CEOs of companies, anybody who is in a hiring authority position for salespeople, because once they experience the assessment tool that I sell, and there is no assessment that's 100% valid, this one will tell you whether that particular person will go out there and sell consistently. So, and those two. And then also, Charlotte, I'm always in a place that I'll help somebody if somebody's having an issue. Or I mean, I placed a call to somebody the other day. He wanted to get into auto dealerships, and he had never talked to anybody in an auto dealership, and I am happy to I made a call, just a discovery call, and kind of threw it by somebody that I knew in the dealer world,
Uh-huh.
and I love to do that. So that's as you know, in alliances, that's my give,
Yes.
is helping people figure out what it is and finding out if their strategy is really viable. And we got such good information. We just cut to the chase. And so that's what I can give people also.
Oh, that is wonderful. That's very powerful, I'll tell you, to help people to cut to the chase. Yeah, that's
Yes.
great. Well, Connie, if you could recommend just one book to our listeners, what would it be?
What an interesting question. The fact that I looked around my office right now. I have about 15 different books. Right now, the book that I'm reading is A Curious Mind, and it's by Brian Grazer. He's a Hollywood producer, very, very wealthy and prestigious. And he said that it was the curious mind that has got him where he wants to go. He's actually a partner of Ron Howard.
Oh,
And what he's saying is you can never let no stop you. He said in Hollywood, where that Hollywood sign, it should say no, 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 that he would keep calling people. And then also the advice that he says is find somebody that you really admire, call them up and ask them if you can come see them, and just be curious. It's not that you're calling to pitch them or
mm-hmm.
to attempt to sell them, but just to ask them about them. And his story is so fascinating and so motivating, and it's all comes to back to being curious. And a lot of people say the ABCs of selling, always be curious. And wow, when salespeople are curious and good listeners, so that's the book at the moment that I would recommend.
Okay. Well, it does sound like a very good one. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Oh, Connie, I've truly enjoyed listening to your journey and the stories that you've shared. So, will you please share one more time how we can get in touch with you and any other resources that you want us to have, and then we'll say goodbye.
Yes, I will. Thank you, Charlotte. The website is exceptionalsales.com, and the sales assessment testing.com is from the assessment that I was sharing about. And you can always feel free to pick up the phone and call me. No call reluctance is 602-997-1101. I'm going to repeat that, 602-997-1101.
Okay.
Put your call reluctance aside and give me a call. And if you're experiencing call reluctance, you can email me at connie@exceptionalsales.com.
Perfect. Well, we will certainly put those in the show notes. And thank you again for being so generous with your time and expertise and experiences. I really did enjoy hearing from you all of those experiences. And remember, listeners, that if you go to today's episode at bizstoryshared.com, Connie Kadansky. Thank you again, Connie, and I'll talk to you again soon.
You're welcome. Thanks, Charlotte.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Give the storyteller some love. Go to bizstoryshared.com, click on the iTunes button, and give a 5-star review. Thanks.